Canadians are looking for change, at least according to the latest poll from Ipsos, which shows it's shaping up to be a tight fall electoral race. Today's poll showing that Conservative leader Andrew Scheer would win the next election. Scheer leads current Prime Minister Justin Trudeau 37% to 31%. Joining me now to talk the future of Canadian power is Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O-Shares ETFs and the star of ABC's Shark Tank. Kevin, good to have you back in studio.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So if the American election taught us one thing, is that you can't really go by polls, but let's say the polls are right. Latest polls of Ipsos today. Are you surprised?
No, but I'm calling for Canadians to take a different tack in this election and ask themselves some questions about competency and management skills. And so I'm going to be agnostic to party, but I'm going to make some points I think that every Canadian should consider, as I do. I'm a Canadian citizen. I'm going to be voting. If you look at what's happened to our country in the last 4 years, we have been extraordinarily unlucky, not only at the Prime Minister level, but if you look at the cabinet, the skill set of finance and foreign affairs, for example, it's been an unmitigated disaster. And I want to make a point that I think every Canadian should consider. And I'm doing my work primarily at colleges. I'm crisscrossing the country asking students to really consider what they should think about for this upcoming election in October. In terms of our country, let's just take the last 5 months,
right.
Okay? If you put a journalist in the role of foreign affairs with no diplomatic skills, I'm not trying to be harsh, I'm just going to speak the truth, and ask them to perform the very delicate role that takes a whole career in diplomacy to do, you're going to fail. And here's a good example. When Trump decided to up the ante with China and go into a full-fledged trade war with them, he must have been thinking this, and I'm speculating, but I don't think I'm wrong. If I get into a trade war with China, all the wheat we sell, all the materials, all the energy, all the wood, all the resources that China buys from us, they're going to cut us off. And where are they going to go? They're going to go to Canada. And they're going to create a huge amount of trade with Canada that I'm going to miss, particularly for my voting constituencies in the Midwest, the farmers, the pork, all that stuff. Here's what he did. He called up our foreign affairs minister. We don't know whether it was there directly, but generally that's how it goes. And then maybe you talked to the Prime Minister and said, look, the Huawei executive, the CFO, is going to land in Vancouver. She's only going to be there for 32 minutes. Arrest her. Now, if you had any tactical skills as a diplomat, what you would have done, which every diplomat would have done, is said, this is not good for us. I'm going to think ahead like a chess game. If we arrest her, the Chinese are going to cut us off. What do? We arrest her. What we could have done is simply called her flight and said, look, there's many reasons you shouldn't land in Vancouver tonight. Go land directly in Mexico City where you're going. But we didn't do that because we had the wrong person in the wrong job. And here's what happened. Within hours, the Chinese started to retaliate. They have cut Canada down to zero. And Trump played our minister like a fiddle and completely screwed our country.
Well, that's an interesting point, Kevin. So do you think that was the pivotal moment when things started to go bad for the Liberals more than SNC-Lavalin?
Yes, SNC-Lavalin just shows incompetency at the management level, which I'm claiming is another problem we've got. What I'm asking Canadians to think about when you vote is ask yourself, it's not just the Prime Minister you have to worry about. Files like finance. Look at our finance minister. An actuarial accountant from the insurance industry. He's a fine man, but he is not the right person to put in a capitally intense country. Now, let me give you an example. When Trump accelerated capital cost allowance in the United States from 5 years down to 12 months, all the capital left Canada because he didn't react fast enough. He didn't say, well, we have to compete with that. It's a very simple accounting principle. The money in energy all left Canada, billions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of jobs. That's sheer incompetence.
But, you know, on the topic of the economy, the Bank of Canada actually coming out saying, look, the economy is actually returning to growth. So the question is, are Canadians going to take a chance?
The worst country to have been invested in the last 5 years of the G7, where is it? Canada. Don't tell me that they're returning to growth. You're lucky not to have had your money there. I'm trying to reverse that. I want some competency in government.
But the optics for most Canadians is that the economy, regardless of what the truth is, the optics are that the economy is not doing so bad. So are they going to take a chance on an untested leader like Scheer or Singh, for example?
I'm not even mentioning party. I'm just saying in Canada, we do not hire new prime ministers. We fire old ones. And that's what's about to happen here. If you go to Calgary, as I did a couple of weeks ago, it is abysmal out there. There's a tumbleweed blowing through there. It's been decimated because our number one resource in terms of generating money in capital is basically energy. We're losing $42 million a day because we can't build a pipeline. Right. At some point, you have to say, look, we took a chance on a young man who had no managerial history. And there's nothing wrong with that. That happens sometimes. That's the nature of politics. But now we need some executional skills in finance, in foreign affairs, at the prime minister level. Somebody who can find men and women to take these mandates, procurement of military equipment. The country is a disaster. It's not. I'm appealing to Canadians saying, look, when you hire management that cannot achieve any goals, you have to do the fair thing to them. You have to fire them so they can go find something they can do.
So is Scheer the right alternative?
I'll let you as a voter decide who the right alternative is. But I'm telling you right now, anything's better than what we've got.
Because if I had to take that question one step further, how does Scheer shake the Doug Ford?
Look, I look at it this way. I campaigned with Andrew Scheer. I'm going to bet that he has the skill set required to find the right men and women, to put them in the right slots to turn our country around. We have to immediately get capital back. We have to settle our beef with the Chinese because they're killing us. Ask any farmer in Canada if he's happy right now, any manufacturer, anybody in energy, anybody in wood. It's the same question people had of Harper when nobody knew who he was.
Right.
The thing we must do now as Canadians is we must make this change. We cannot, it is so bad, it's so bad that if we got another 4 years of this, I think you could take Canada down to probably zero growth rate. That's what I think.
Wow.
It is. Here's my assumption. I recently did this trade. Canadian dollar collapsed under Trudeau. Mm-hmm. It was at 73 and something cents about 60 or 40 days ago. I made a huge move. I bought a bunch of Canadian dollars because I'm seeing the wave coming through. We saw the Kenney election, then we saw what happened in Ontario first. These things are great because they're more pro-business. I'd like to get rid of the anti-business tonality to our country and replace it with people that want to create jobs in Canada, want to attract capital. So my bet is the most likely scenario is a 50-50. In other words, where Trudeau loses his majority mandate. What do we do in the parliamentary system when you take a majority down to minority? You get taken up behind the barn, and that's the end of you. Which is also a great outcome for me as an investor. Anybody else is going to be better, and that's why I'm taking a bet on Canada. So I'm bullish on Canada. I'm telling every sovereign fund that I talk to, put some money in Canada because Trudeau will be gone either through losing this election or he'll lose his majority mandate and he'll be yanked out.
Definitely headed towards a minority, but for you, pipeline is key.
It's all key. I need competency in foreign affairs. I need competency in finance. I need competency in infrastructure, of which I have none. As a Canadian taxpayer, I've got the not the B team. I've got the C and the D team because he didn't want to do competency. He wanted to do, when he brought in this kumbaya government and said, look, I really want to bring in people that don't know what they're doing and give them a chance. And look what happened to us.
Okay. Just on the topic of trade, then, how should he be handling, the topic of uranium, lumber? How can Canada get tougher here?
We have to release her. We have to release her because the Chinese are not fooling around. We should not have arrested that woman. They've made it clear. They're even telling us now they don't want our pork. We were prime providers of pork. You ask any Canadian entrepreneur whether we're in a good place right now. We should have had a huge win with China. We should have scored through the roof. We should have been where every Chinese manufacturer wanted to work with, and pork and wheat and every resource we should be selling like crazy now while Trump's at war with China. But he outsmarted us. He absolutely outsmarted us. He made such a fine move there that we should be ashamed.
So you're impressed by what you're seeing from Donald Trump?
I'm abhorred to see what happened to us. We should have been smarter. If you put a journalist in the role of a diplomat, this is what you get. And we got to make that change.
It's going to be interesting to watch. Kevin O'Leary, never mincing words. Thank you so much.
No
Would
problem.
you consider entering the political ring again?
I am back in the entrepreneurial space as an investor in Canada and proud to be saying I am taking every one of my family members to the poll together. We are going to help make this change. I can't wait for the new Canada to emerge. I wish the next prime minister the best of luck, but it's going to be whoever we get, it's going to be better than what we got right now.
Kevin O'Leary, thank you so much.
Thank you.